Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my tutorial on using MySQL Workbench to export a script for um, a data model that we have created in MySQL Workbench. Uh, I'm recording this in April of 2018, and on the schedule here, we've kind of built this tutorial as a way to resolve the problems with a particular exercise. Exercise 3 of the My Guitar Shop exercises for Chapter 10. And it turns out it's not really solving a problem with Workbench. What has happened is that the features of Workbench have sort of evolved since the book was authored back in 2015. And so the way that you do what you do to get a script is just a little bit different, and we have some additional features that we didn't used to have. So I would describe it now as more of an opportunity than a problem. So what does that exercise ask us to do? Well, in the previous exercise, exercise 2, we're asked to design a database, a simple three-table database. And we're asked to do it with the EER diagrammer in Workbench and to save it as a .mwb file, which is how we save those models from the diagrammer and modeling feature of Workbench. So in exercise 3, we are asked to open up that model in the EER diagram and to export the design as a script. Okay, and that used to be a direct feature before, and now it's more of an indirect feature. So we're going to go explore how you do that and what the various related features are. Okay, so here I am. I'm in the diagrammer, and I've opened up another example database that I've created. And it's a fictitious application for a company or some kind of organization that has got people associated with it. It's got departments, and departments have people. And the people volunteer for some kind of events. My thought is that they're charitable kinds of things. So going to pack food at the food bank, going to rake leaves for people who can't do it for themselves, those kinds of things. And each event is part of a series. Okay, so a series of food packing events, a series of leaf raking events, etc. And so a person can volunteer for an event, and the relationship between persons and events is that each person can volunteer for zero to many events, and each event can have zero to many volunteers, and this many-to-many relationship between persons and events is embodied by the volunteer for table, which is an associative or linking table. Okay? And the way we've designed this at this point is the person ID and the event ID are serving both as the primary keys of the volunteer for and the foreign keys that point to the two related tables. And when you do that in this diagrammer, it decides that it's an identifying relationship, and instead of getting the dashed line, we get the solid line. Okay, so that's what the diagram is. That's why it looks like what it looks. So let's say that we wanted to move from a diagram and we really wanted to work with the database. Okay, well, what we used to have to do with Workbench is we used to have to export the model that we have here as a script, and then we would go into the other part of MySQL Workbench, the one here where we get a connection, and we would import the script and run it. So let's look at that right now. I had already created this, so let me drop that schema from that side because I just did that. Okay, so let's say we're over with the connection, and we say, oh, we don't have that. Okay, we don't have the event volunteer scheduling database up. All right, so how do we get it? Well, again, we go back into the EER diagrammer, and we're going to find some way to move from an EER diagram to a database. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you used to have to do that in 2 steps. Step 1 is you would do some kind of export and generate a script, and step 2 you would come over to your connection. Where's our connection? Over here, local instance, and you would open up the script and run it, and you would get the database. Well, what's actually happened is that the design of the interface between these 2 parts has been tightened up such that it's possible for us to go directly from a diagram to having a database defined that we are able to use in this local instance. Okay, so you don't have to create the script along the way. Well, the problem for our assignment is to create the script. Okay, so there are 2 kinds of issues here. One is that how would I go from the diagrammer to having a real database if that's what I wanted to do? I'm going to show you how to do that. And the other is, if I wanted to keep a copy of the script on the way along, like I do in this exercise 3, well then, how would I get that done? All right, so back to the diagrammer. So let me show you the easy way that doesn't include doing the script. Okay, so we have the model open, and we've got the diagram up, and we go up to the menu, and we click on Database, Forward Engineer. Okay, and this is all we're going to take the default on this first panel and say Continue, and then on the next panel, I always like, if I'm going to have some kind of schema script, I always want to begin with a generate drop schema. So I'm going to add that. Okay, now the first time we run this, we're not even going to save the script. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. And then I'm going to click on Continue. And it's going to say that it wants to export the table objects. There are 5 of them. That makes sense. The rest of these features are not features that we're using. Theoretically, we could have views. So theoretically, if we use the view in our schema, we would ask to export them too. But I don't have any in this one, so I'm not going to do it. And the rest of these things, routine objects, trigger objects, user objects, we're not using those in our course, and we never do. So let's click on Continue. And this is the script. Okay, so go back to 2015 when Joel Marak wrote the book that we're using. This was the end product of this activity. All right, And what I'm just going to say, I'm just going to give you a hint here. If in fact you're doing exercise 3, well, it turns out this is just an editor, and you can highlight it and copy it and save the script. That's the only way to do that now. Okay, but let's say we're not doing that now. We just want to get the database over and get it up on the server so we can work with it using our database connection. Well, we just say continue. And it connects to the server. It executes the forward engineered script. That's the script we just saw. It read back the changes that are made by server. It saves a synchronization state, and it says everything was successful. Okay, and this is the way they're kind of expecting you to do this kind of workflow now. Okay, this is the new version of the workflow. So let's go over to the other side and open up the connection. And you go over to the panel on the left, and we don't see the database yet, but let's refresh the list, and there it is, right there. So there's the database. Here are the 5 tables, okay? And we're ready to begin working with it, okay? One of the things that happened is, that was the drop that we did before. Forget about that. Nothing happened that we didn't ask it to do. So that's it. So then we can begin to use it. Okay, let's say we want to use it the old way. Okay, well, how will we do that? Well, here's how we do it. Let's just drop the database again. Okay, so drop the schema. Drop it now. It goes away. Now we've dropped it again. And as you can see, we don't have it in the list. So let's go back over to the model. And let's do it the old way, which you have to do if you're going to come up with a script to submit as a solution for exercise 3. Okay. So how are we going to do this? Well, the same way, but we're not going to go quite so far. We're going to click on database, forward engineer, and the first panel we're going to take the defaults. And it's remembered that we'd like to add this it generate drop schema. That turns out in the workflow that we use, say, for our final project, it turns out to be a pretty good thing to have. We want to make sure that every time we reinstall the database that we're not accidentally keeping data that we had before. That becomes a problem for students who are handing in their projects because, well, it does. Okay. All right, so this looks good. Let's say continue. Yeah, we've got the 5 tables. That's all we want. Let's say continue. Okay, and we're going to stop here. We're not going to have it do all that very convenient, actually create the database for us directly. We're just going to save the script. Okay, there's no button for saving the script. So how do you do it? Well, you click in the editor area. Well, it's not really an editor. It's just sort of a display thing. And I'm on my Mac, so I'm gonna press Command A to highlight all. If you were on Windows, it would be Control A. And then I'm going to copy that. So again, on my Mac, it's a Command C. On Windows, it would be a Control C. And now I'm just going to bring up some kind of text editor. In this case, I'm using TextMate because I happen to like that a lot. And I'm going to, on my Mac, I'm going to use Command V to paste it in. On Windows, you would use Control V. And here's the script. Okay? And it looks like just what I want. Okay? In particular, because we asked for the drop schema, if exists, we're going to get the drop schema first. Okay? So that's going to be just what we want. So why don't we save this? So I'm gonna say save as, and where am I gonna put this? Well, I'm gonna put this over in my courseware development area, just because I want to hold on to it. And I'm going to put it right in here in examples, and I'm going to call this create event volunteer scheduling DB. Okay, we're just going to call it, and the extension is not .txt. The extension that we want is .sql, because it's a script. So let's save it. All right. So let's go take a look at that. All right. I guess if you were trying to come up with the answer to exercise 3, you would have saved it with this ex_10_3.sql. Okay, but of course I'm not doing that. So I just want to show you what would happen if you go on and you round trip it. Okay, so this is the way we used to have to do it to get it into the database server. We would come back here, and we could close the diagrammer, for instance. All right, and the modeler, they're gone, and we bring up a connection. Okay, and let me close. Let me close all those. So now we want. This isn't part of exercise 3, but if we really want to go all the way around and create the database, well, then we would say we want to open a script. And again, I put mine down in my courseware development area. So we're going to go down there into examples. And here it is, create event volunteer scheduling db.sql. Highlight that and open it. All right, and there it is. That's looking pretty healthy. Okay, and somehow these the size of the text here has gotten pretty big. Apologize for that, but here it is. Okay, and it's just a script like any other script, and we're going to execute it. And we don't see the database yet because we need to refresh the list. And there it is. And there are our 5 tables. Okay, so it turns out that we don't explicitly have a script export feature anymore on that forward engineering workflow, but we do have an opportunity to copy it and paste it into an editor and save the script with an appropriate name, and then if in fact we run it, well, then that's the way to create the database on the server. Okay. If, on the other hand, we're not trying to save the script and we're not trying to come up with a proper solution to exercise 3, and we just want to get the database onto the server, well, we can just go to the end of the forward engineer dialog, and it'll put it on the server for us without us having to do all the fooling around with the script. So there's nothing broken. We've got kind of more polite and functional features, but it's a little more work if you want to get your hands on the script, and that's what we're trying to do in exercise 3. So with this, I think you should be able to do a great job on exercise 3, and also later on, when you're working on your final project, I think you ought to have a clear idea of the workflow between the modeler and diagrammer, and then the rest of the tool. So I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye bye.